Would you include Netanyahu in that list?
No.
Oh, really?
No, I don't know anything about Netanyahu. If he's a scoundrel, I don't know why. But I'm glad you brought that up because I'm getting a little pissed off about this Jew thing. I'm getting tired of it, man. It's not you saying it. It's like Jones and Tucker Carlson and all these guys. Like, it's starting to get under my skin. Because I tried to be nice. I was like, okay, we disagree on that. I'm going to let it go. But they've been screaming about it for months. Months and months and months and months. The war on Gaza is horrible, blah, blah, blah. I can't believe it. We need peace. We need peace. And then Trump pulls off some random deal where it's like he gets that peace and then from either one of them. It just infuriates me. Like, and the idea that Netanyahu controls the freaking government. Like, half the government hates him. And it's all the power players that hate him. Soros isn't a fan of Netanyahu. Like, he might be buddies with Dick Cheney, I guess, maybe. I don't know. But it's not like he's, in bed with these globalist types. So it doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know why.
I mean, isn't he kind of in command of the war on Gaza?
Yeah, he's in charge of the war on Gaza. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's part of a, globalist plot. I think a lot of it is they're mad that they think the Palestinians ought to get their own state, and they don't want to say it because most conservatives don't think that. That's what I think it boils down to.
I just don't think we should murder them. That's all I think.
The Gaza... There is a big difference, and this is another frustration of me. There is a big difference between bombing a hospital because there is a military camp under it, and these people bombing a bus while women and children are on their way to work. Like, this has been the problem with Gaza and the Palestinians for 40 years. They sit there, they sucker punch people, they kill random women and children in a sucker punch in Israel, and then they go hide behind their own people trying to bait Israel to do the same thing. And then when Israel finally does, they sit there and scream that they're the ones getting genocided when they've been doing the exact same thing to Israel for ever since I started following the news, which was like the bombing of the USS Cole. It's been the same crap over and over and over again. They sit there, they do these awful attacks on random innocent people, and then they go hide behind their women and children and they're sick underground and go, come on, hit us, hit us. And then the second Israel does, they want to start crying about it. I'm sorry, there's a difference between collateral damage in war, which is bad, but there's a difference between that and then just straight up murder. And that just...
Yeah.
It just frustrates me. I'm like, what? Yeah, I would love to find a solution where the people in Gaza didn't go through what they went through. I would love to find that solution. I don't know what it is, and I'll tell you.
The solution is not voting Hamas as their governing body.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's the solution. They did this.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. But even if you didn't want to, spill blood, you need another plan. Because the one thing that isn't acceptable is the Jewish people being expected to continue to put up with that. It's not right to just expect women and children to die so you don't feel like there's a war going on across the pond. And I feel like some people, they're not so much interested in, making sure 20,000 people... they would rather have 100,000 people die over 10 years than 20,000 people die over a year. Because they don't mind the casualties so long as it's slow and there's this illusion of peace. What they don't like is there being all this mass war and trauma, and they get manipulated when it happens all at once. But the fact of the matter is the Palestinians have killed way more Jews over the years, even when you factor in this war. It's just happened over a longer period of time, so people haven't paid attention to it. And it has to end at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it sucks.
Word.
I hate it. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. It's just, I've been listening to Jones and Tucker Carlson whenever I'm able to listen to the news, which thankfully is not been much over the last 2 weeks. But, it's just been this growing sense of rage because they complained and complained and complained. And then finally Trump ends the war and it's just, and I thought Chase Geyser, the new co-host at InfoWars, I thought he was going to cry whenever Trump came up with that solution. It was like the most horrible thing in the world that the Jews actually got a semi-favorable deal in that thing. It was just horrible. They were really hoping that people would finally turn against the vile Jews or something. It just irritates me.
Yeah.
But the whole Jewish hate thing irritates me too, because I had a when I was producing for the radio show, like the host for that show, he was very much into that whole Jewish conspiracy thing, and I would always ask him. I asked him this several times, I should say, and I was like, why does it have to be Jewish bankers? Because he believed Jews ruled the world, And I was like, why does it have to be Jewish bankers? Like, I'm sure some of them are Jewish. Maybe even most of them are Jewish. They're not all Jewish. So why is it so important to make sure there's a Jewish qualifier there? And after I asked this a million times, he was like, well, I met these Jews in New York, and they were just some of the most arrogant people I ever met, and blah, blah, blah. And he goes off about this group of Jews he'd met in New York. And I'm like, that's what it is. You had a bad experience with the group, and you're generalizing all of them for that one experience. And honestly, that's what racism is fundamentally. You have a bad experience with one group, and you extrapolate or generalize or project your own experience onto an entire population of people.
Yeah.
Because nobody actually gives a crap about skin color or any of the superficial nonsense. It's usually something more emotional or social or economic. That's usually what's motivating the contempt. So.
One experience, and it defines the rest of your life's perspective on that one thing.
Yeah. Well, you can tell because they slipped in their methodology. Like Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson are brilliant 99.9% of the time. But just like, at least my impression of for example, the 9/11 was an inside job conspiracy theory. It's like when they talk about the first two towers, it's like you got to read through this fact, like there's like nano military grade thermite in the powder, and air traffic control was doing this, and people were doing this and that, and you've got to wade through all these details with the first two towers. But then when you get to Building 7, it's like Silverstein, or whatever the guy's name is, Goldberg, Jew. That's it. They're like, oh, it's all coming together. I guess him, Netanyahu, and Dick Cheney had coffee at a Starbucks the day before. I don't know. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I'm just getting tired of it. I'm just tired of it.
I went through a season of it.
Yeah.
Like, that like anger towards them. But I kind of I started thinking about it real hard because it was bothering me. And when you're told you're God's chosen person, like you're in that group, you're told that.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like the most specialist boy in the whole wide world. And you feel like everybody owes you something. I kind of empathize them, I get it.
Well, I think if you listen to some of the media regarding them, there's a little bit of bitterness about being persecuted all the time because they're the chosen people. Like from a lot of their perspective, from what I understand.
Yeah.
It's like,
but they get addicted to that feeling of being like when somebody's jealous of something you have, like that feels good in a way, but it's like bad,
Yeah, I just think that they're a little upset because, a lot of them have
get
lost
addicted to
loved
that
ones and
feeling.
everything else.
All right, guys, I got to step away for a second. I'll be right back.
All right, sounds good, man. So, I mean, but even so, they're not running the world. That's the bottom line. Like, as far as, and from a farming perspective, like, I think they ought to have that land. Like, if I understand George Gilder's book correctly, they came in there in the Jewish, area, like Jerusalem, like about 1870. And like what we were talking about with the parasites and the way the land is and everything like that earlier, like they planted trees because trees, help keep the topsoil. They irrigated using the Sea of Galilee. They reversed the desertification that was going on in that land and made it habitable. And then they established trade, or they did both at the same time. And as a result of that initial generation of Jewish people's efforts, the Arab population, which had a life expectancy of 30 at the time, goes back to a normal life expectancy because now they're no longer killing each other for resources. Because if I've got my facts correct, they were like migrating. They were like nomadic before then.
Mm-hmm.
But once the Jewish people, which is an agrarian society, because that's what happened. That's what happens with the Boers. You have an agrarian society, fix up land, and then the pagan tribes, they sit there, they look at the work that the other guys have done, and they went, I want that. And that's when you get the Palestinian government, because before I think it was just nomadic. And I have to double check all that, but if I remember The Israel Test is the book's name, from George Gilder. But, from my perspective, I'm like, they're the ones that did the work to build the land up, so they should get to keep it. Religious stuff, which is the most important to me, admittedly, but, if faith is too much for somebody, then think about it like an agrarian standpoint. They did the work to build the land up and stabilize the region. They should get to keep the land. Because those people, the Palestinians, they don't know what they did to actually get that land going in the first place. And if you just give them that land, they'll tear it up because you can't expect a country that has been fed off the government teat, only in this case it's the UN's teat, for 40 years, to know how to run a country. Like, you can't expect them to know how to stabilize a region if they've just been living off the government dime for a generation.
Yeah.
So I don't think a two-state solution is in any way, shape, or form, feasible.
Fair enough.
So that's my outlook.
Just build a big wall.
They did. They tunneled under.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh.
They did, and they tunneled under it. It's ridiculous. So, I mean, I just think as far as the chosen people thing that you're referring to, I think that that's one of those. This is going to depend on individuals. People are going to make different meanings of that.
That's what people go through at an individual level, I think.
Yeah. And I think theologically, people need to understand the concept of sanctification. To be set apart doesn't mean better. It means you've got a specific job, and that the Jewish people have specific jobs they're supposed to do. That's what it's meant. That's what it means to be chosen from a theological standpoint. And so that doesn't necessarily mean you're better than another people group. It just means you have a task, like the chosen one in a fiction story, if you will. So yeah. I think that's what it means biblically. So I don't know, Greg, you've got some theological background. What do you think?
About what in particular?
About what it means to be a what does it mean for the Israeli people to be the chosen people? What is that from? I guess from a modern application standpoint, or I don't know. What do you think it means? Because I know what it means. From a covenant standpoint, it means they're people under the Abrahamic covenant. But from does that make them better, or does that make them sanctified? How would you frame what it means to be chosen?
I mean, you're coming from this from a dispensationalist standpoint, which I get. That's a lot of what we grew up in, but.
Do you know what dispensationalism means? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've been studying covenants and dispensationalism. I still have no idea what either term means. I've been looking at it. I still don't get it.
It seems like so the basic argument, this would have to go on for hours or something to really discuss dispensationalism. But, there's two basic camps that, people look at in times and see Israel as a nation fulfilling these certain covenants. And there's the other side is or what they consider themselves the Reformed camp. I don't remember what term they use to call themselves. Covenant theology, I think. Okay. Where they think, the church has replaced Israel as in times theology. So it's whether you think Israel has a part to play or whether you think Israel is done and the church has replaced Israel.
Okay.
So anybody that follows the biblical stuff is part of the church.
Well, I think from my perspective, I don't know what camp this leads me in. I'm the Levitical covenant's been completed. The Abrahamic covenant's still in effect. The Noahic covenant's still in effect. The curse of the earth is still, like, there's different types of covenants. There's conditional and unconditional covenants. We're under the Jeremiah 31 covenant, but it's kind of unclear how much of that applies to the church and how much of that applies to Israel, because there's certain things that are clearly applicable to Israel specifically, but at the same time, Paul mentions that we're grafted into that covenant as the church, as Gentiles. So it's kind of like, I think it's contingent upon whether or not the Jewish people return to Christ as to how that exact covenant manifests, from what I understand.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to discuss there. Like, there's...
Yeah, we could spend days tearing it in pieces, going over it.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll have to sometime, because I got my toe wet, and I listened to the covenant theology people, and I listened to the dispensationalist people, and I was like, I still don't know what any of this means, and I don't know how these two ideas conflict. It's like, yes, we're part of the, we're part of the Jewish covenant, but that doesn't mean we've replaced them. I mean, why? I don't know why you would say, because the covenant Christ was referring to was the Levitical covenant. Like, he was completing the law. That doesn't mean the Abrahamic covenant isn't still in play.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make any sense to assume that it would be gone.
When you get real deep into theology, a lot of these arguments seem to, I don't know.
They seem pedantic.
Like, why are we? Yeah, pedantic. It's a good word. Why are we fighting about this?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where I'm at.
Maybe we should read it and take a deep dive on it.
Yeah, we could. I mean, I've tried, but I've just walked away going, I think these build on top of each other. I think the covenants are, like, you can't really understand a lot of what's going on in the Bible without understanding the covenants. Like, that's pretty foundational. And yes, the church has replaced the Jewish people in terms of, like, the Jeremiah 31 covenant, like, right now. But that doesn't mean it's always going to be the case. And that's kind of what Paul leaves it open-ended for. He's hoping that they'll come back. But as of right now, it's like Jacob whom we've loved, Esau whom we've hated. Like, because we've accepted Christ, whereas they rejected him. It's like we've been grafted in. So that's the way it is right now. But Paul makes it very clear that it's not always going to be that way. But anyway, I'm rambling. But it's important because, like, you can't understand a lot of the terminology unless you understand the covenant. Like, sons of God, for example. That's covenant theology, like that's covenant nomenclature, because it's not that we're being elevated to semi-deity status or something. It's Christ is God, and we are his sons because of that unconditional covenant, in the same way that the children of Abraham are the children of Abraham because of what Abraham did and that covenant that was established with him. So it's like, to understand the analogies that are used, you kind of have to understand the covenants. So I don't think that the covenants just went away after Christ died on the cross. So, or am I just talking in circles now?
No, they're still there. The covenants are circles.
What? Don't hurt my brain anymore, because I might have talked myself in a circle. I'm not sure. I just kind of keep going, and then the oxygen leaves, and I just try to finish the sentence. So,
it's all about the blood. That's all I know.
Yeah.
I have one thought, but you're not going to like it.
Go for it. It's the end of the night. Let's just end it on a bang.
Not about the Trinity, is it?
Sort of. So you said Christ is like your father. That's how you view it?
No, Christ is God. No, I'm making compare. It's like, no, I'm not saying.
I know, but like your personal walk, is Christ like a father figure to you?
In my personal walk?
Yeah.
Strictly speaking, I suppose he'd have to be.
I would view Christ as king.
Yeah, he's king. He's Lord. He's,
Yeah, he's above us.
Yeah, he's the primary authority in our lives.
Right. I don't know. I just like I've always viewed him as a brother. My wife views it that way too.
As a brother?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
because like he talks about the Father,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I pray to the Father.
I think relationally, there's
He feels
an
like a brother to
application
me.
there. Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious.
No, I think my point is like the way that an unconditional covenant works is I'm drawing, like, you have to understand the covenants to understand the nomenclature. I use that word all the time. But, sons of God, like, for example, the Mormons will take that to mean like we're all going to be like, we have the potential of being semi-divine, deified, yeah, in the future, because they're taking the phrase sons of God and they're elevating it. They're elevating the man with it when it's really the opposite. What's actually happening is Paul, or whoever's using that terminology, is calling Christ God, and we are his sons in the same way that the Jewish people are the children of Abraham. Because in an unconditional covenant, there is a group of people that benefit from the actions of a righteous man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think we've talked about all that before. So
yeah. Have we ever drawn comparisons between Abraham and Christ?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Have we ever drawn comparisons between Abraham and Christ?
I don't think we've drawn comparisons of Abraham.
What would that look like?
I don't know. Is there any?
I don't think so.
Not that I know of.
There's in Hebrews, Christ is called the priest after the order of Melchizedek, which ties Abraham's interaction with Melchizedek to what Christ did on the cross. And so that's the connecting line between those two covenants. There's been some people that have theorized
the same representative body.
Yeah, like some people have theorized that Melchizedek is actually Christ. I don't know if that's true, but some people have theorized that because he's known as the Prince of Peace.
At the very least, he's an image of Christ. Huh?
Yeah, at the very least, he's an image of Christ.
In terms of being both a priest and a king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's that. But it's also important to note that it's that reaction immediately following that interaction with Melchizedek. That's when God makes his unconditional covenant with the Jewish people. Like he establishes the idea of a nation and of people that are the children of Abraham. Like that covenant of offspring, I guess you would say, immediately follows that chapter regarding Melchizedek. So there's the author of Hebrews is drawing a parallel between the Abrahamic covenant, and he's doing that to make Christ's covenant like different from the Levitical covenant. Like he's distinguishing the two. So that's what's going on there. If that makes any sense. So
Word.
I don't know, Greg, you got any thoughts?
Not really. No, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Where did we start? This started with a Zuckerberg.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with anything. We just went on a complete rabbit trail. So
Yay.
yeah. That's all right, though. That's a good thing. But I think it is time to wrap things up. Does anybody got any final thoughts?
Wrap it up.
No, sir.
Cody, no. Trevor, you?
Wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Greg, you got anything?
I mean, not really. This whole tangent was starting on, Israel and, Alex Jones and a lot of people who love to hate on Israel. I mean, I think it's important to note Israel is a nation. They have to protect their own interests. So a war between Gaza, they're protecting themselves.
Yeah.
I don't think you can look at that and say, and I don't know, there's a lot of people that go to the conclusion that, Israel is this, demonic force that is destroying the world, all the Jewish bankers and stuff. And it's like, well, the nation of Israel is just a nation trying to protect their own interests.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to look in that way.
Yeah. It's also important to note that these Fabian socialists and these creepy globalist types are going to hate a nation like Israel because it is a nation with a national identity. Like it is a race of people who has a nation unto itself, like the Japanese, They hate any nation like that. So the idea that Netanyahu would be connected to any of that crap is ridiculous because these people hate the nation state definitionally. Like the idea of an ethno-state is like acid to the globalist. So they're not going to be on the same team. Now, Mossad is on the globalist team, but like I've said, they all come from that OSS tradition. That's why they all kind of hang out in the same circle. So Mossad is not necessarily reflective of even the Israeli government. It's, again, the intelligence agencies are a Praetorian Guard for the entire West, not just the United States. But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. We're going to wrap it up. So, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Dunk.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Faith, Fiction, and Folklore. If you did, we would love it if you would subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Rumble. We can also be found on X, Instagram, and Facebook. And we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Thank you again very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.